Rogers TV Durham would like to acknowledge that we are on the treaty and traditional territory of the Mississaugas of Scugog Island First Nation of the Mississauga Nation. May we respectfully honor the knowledge and understanding of the Indigenous stewards of these ancestral lands and ensure that the voices of the First Peoples are represented in our collections, programs, and services.
The opinions expressed in the following programs are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect those of Rogers Cable or Rogers TV.
Hey, what's up, everybody, and welcome back to the Players Corner with Karim Grant. I'm your host, obviously, Karim. I am here with a special guest in studio today, a good friend of mine, but also a hip-hop pioneer. One of the most decorated, he comes from one of the most decorated rap duos in all of Canadian history. He is none other than Red One, and we have him in studio today. Red, my man.
What's up, my guy?
What's happening, brother? How you doing?
I'm good, man. I can't complain. Thank you for having me. I appreciate
Hey,
it.
man, the pleasure is always mine, man. It's such an honor to have such prestigious guests in the studio, you know what I'm saying? So I just wanted to talk to you and chop it up with you and find out, like, what got you started in the music game?
To be honest with you, man, it's like I've always loved music. When I was younger, I wanted to be what you do. I wanted to be a football player, to be honest with you. But, but I was always in school. I was always playing instruments in the choir. Wow. I was, in the acting and doing school plays and all that kind of stuff. So, nice. Music and entertainment kind of has always been a path that I followed from an early age.
Nice. So I understand you were a dancer first?
Yeah. So, okay. Before we started rapping, we were a dance crew, and, we'd go to all these underage dances and we'd be battling against other crews. And that's kind of how I met my partner, Misfit. Me and Kimo, we went to the same high school, but we all used to break dance, and we would just go out and just be out at these parties and just be battling each other. And it just ended up that Fitz crew and my crew were the two crews that were just always going at it. And then you just kind of, from seeing each other at all these different parties and dances, you build a friendship. And after the dances, we just go out and eat and hang out, and I just started to build a relationship, and that's kind of how we became friends.
That's incredible, man. Like, so that time, I'm thinking that's like the early 90s, late 80s?
Early 90s.
The early 90s. So a lot's happening in hip-hop. Hip-hop's becoming more commercialized. Like, who were some of the acts that you were influenced by at that time?
Definitely like guys like Big Daddy Kane, Rakim, KRS-One, Tribe Called Quest. A lot of the artists that at that time were coming out in the New York area. Yeah. And then, there were a few West Coast artists like, NWA, Souls of Mischief, Del, the Hunky Homo Sapien.
That's right.
There were a lot, man, like, Grand Poobah.
Yeah. So you took, I guess, bits and pieces from each one of those artists and kind of made it your own kind of thing?
Yeah, see, the thing with being in Vancouver in those days in hip-hop, it was like, we're on the West Coast, but we're being influenced by a lot of East Coast artists. I think a lot of people were, because hip-hop was mostly coming out of New York back then, but we didn't really, it was so fresh and young in Vancouver. The scene, it wasn't like exploding like that. So we didn't really have the influence locally. So I feel like our style was kind of like untainted. Mm-hmm. So, I feel like if you were on the East Coast or if you were in the West Coast of California, you were more influenced by your local sound, but we didn't really have a local sound.
That's right.
You know what I mean? In Canada, there was just Maestro, Dream Warriors, Mishi Me. There was just only a few people doing it. You know what I'm saying?
That's right.
So,
and those names you mentioned, they're all from Toronto. So I mean, me growing up in Toronto, we're about 8-9 hours away from New York,
Right.
the hotbed of rap, the birthplace of hip hop. So we were really heavily influenced by that culture. So for me, how was it that you guys were able to develop such credibility coming from Vancouver and really transcending into multiple markets throughout, North America?
See, the thing about us, because we weren't really engulfed in a hip hop culture kind of society, we became real students of the game. Like my crew, we had DJs, we had MCs, we had dancers, we had graffiti artists.
Wow.
Like, so we kind of encompassed the whole
All the
thing
elements.
all the elements of hip hop, and we were like real students. Like you'd have to go out of your way to kind of get knowledge, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's what we kind of did every day. So we studied the MCs, we studied the DJs, we studied, Rocksteady crew and all the
Right.
dancers. We studied all the graph crews. So it kind of built more of a fundamentalist version of hip hop.
Yeah.
Versus
It's more like I wouldn't say an offshoot of what Canadian hip hop was, but you guys had your own lane.
Yes.
You guys definitely created your own lane, and when you did that, it really opened our eyes out in the East Coast, where in Toronto, where we thought everything was just Toronto centered. So we're like, yo, who are these guys? These guys have a little flavor out there. Like, I don't understand. They got black people in Vancouver. That was the first thing a lot of us thought, right? We were just like, wow, this is crazy. You guys had some monumental hits though that came out of your sound that you created. Let's talk about Top of the World, man. That was an incredible that hit that kind of propelled you. Do you feel that was a hit that propelled you to the next level?
It was definitely a hit that took us from the level we were at to another level.
Right.
But I felt like what took us from ground level to a level of recognition would have been a song that we had called Dreaded Fist.
Big tune.
That was our first video was a song called Really Living, and then our second video was a song called Dreaded Fist. And in the underground space, that kind of put us in a position to really be able to come up with songs like Top of the World and Northern Touch and those other kind of songs that were more widely accepted.
Right.
But before we got to there, we were putting out underground bangers, and that's kind of what was like, the Soul Obligations, the Migraine, the Dreaded Fists, the Really Living. That's what built up our credibility in the underground level, and kind of gave us the confidence to be able to, build off of that and make songs like Top of the World.
Now, in hip hop, the coalescing of two genres, so dancehall and rap, it happens sometimes, but it didn't happen that very often.
Right.
You guys brought it to the forefront. How did that relationship with Barrington Levy materialize? Where did that come from?
Well, from the very get-go, we were always into reggae music, almost as much as we were into hip-hop music. Like the first name of the group was Ragamuffin Rascals.
Okay.
And we ended up with the Rascals because we thought the name was too long. So we dropped Ragamuffin and went with Rascals. So from our very first CD, Really Living, if you listen to that kind of, it's like half reggae, hip hop infused, because we didn't have. There was no one really in our area that was guiding us or showing us the route. So, which was dope, because that gave us the freedom to kind of just to be us and just do our thing.
Yeah.
We were the ones trailblazing.
So it was already embedded within you.
It was just embedded, you know?
And really, if we look at the roots of hip hop, it came from the dancehall culture.
Right.
And so it makes a lot of sense.
1000%.
One of my favorite songs of all time. I'll put that in my maybe top 25 of my favorite songs of all time, just letting you know that.
Well, it was ranked, Complex put out a ranking of all Canadian songs.
Nah, I'm not even talking just Canadian, I'm talking in general.
Oh, okay,
because it shifted the culture in terms of how we we listen to choruses and how we kind of intertwine two genres together. Because having said that, now you fast forward a couple years later and you go a bit further east. Now there's a gentleman called Shine and Sean Puffy Combs, and they use the same type of method to create their own hit.
Well, no, they directly used. So what happened was, my manager at the time was a guy named Saul Guy, and we were signed to BMG.
Shout out to Saul Guy.
Shout out to Saul. So BMG owned Arista Records. Arista Records owned Bad Boy Records, whatever. So he got a job from BMG to work at Arista to be their director of international. And so basically, when our album and that song was done, he gave it to Puff. Puff heard the record because at that time we were trying to get an American deal also. So Puff heard the record and was like, "Yo, I like that." Hollered at Barrington, and then
so he bypassed you guys and went to Barrington straight.
Got to Barrington because he was coming out with a new artist named Shine.
Yeah.
So he thought, okay, and this is a story that's coming directly from Barrington himself. Barrington will tell you that when Puff called him, he told him, "Yo, I like the record you did with the Rascals.
Yeah.
I want you to do something like that with my man Shine." And so when Barrington went to New York, he did 2 songs with Shine, and those were Shine's first 2 singles.
Okay.
And Barrington went all of them. But that was a direct influence of us drawing for Barrington Levy and putting him on our record. And we drew for Barrington Levy because he was like at the my all-time favorite dancehall singer at the time, you know what I mean? So the song Top of the World is actually a remake of a song that he has, Indiana Wants It, dancehall.
Yes,
you know,
that's right.
You know what I mean? So that was my version of his song. And instead of just like sampling him or just like trying to re-sing it myself, because I'm not a very good singer, we were like, yo, we're on a major label now, and that gave us access.
So we got the budget.
We got the budget, and we have access to whoever. So it's like, yo, get Barrington. And to this day, I remember that night in the studio. It was like, he sang that one time. If you listen to that record, it starts off with him going from the top. And that's the one take.
That's a one take wonder.
Man took a puff of a cigarette, said,
and he was ready.
Bang! I've never seen that.
That's
happen.
a consummate performer. You can see his voice will never change for the rest of his life, man. It's an incredible story, and I always, when I listen to Shine, I like Shine when he first came out. When I listen to Bad Boys, that song that they copied off of you guys, I'm gonna say it. I'm just gonna say it. They bit you guys. You're right. It's a good tune. And I'm just like, did Barrington go harder on that song for him than he did for y'all? Because he was on some different octaves there, you know what I'm saying?
I'm going to tell you, you know, Puff, we had access to a budget in a bag, but Puff had access to a bigger budget, a bigger bag. So I'm sure Barrington had a lot of inspiration to go a little bit harder. But you know, that's something that's been happening to us our whole career. Like, we put out a song named Movie Star. Keith Murray puts out a song called Candy Bar on the same beat, you know.
They say imitation is the highest form of flattery. You believe it?
1,000%. It's happened to me over and over again, so I ain't mad at it.
We got to go to commercial pretty soon, but I want to talk to you about, because your boy David Sanchez was here, and I know you guys grew up together playing football.
Yes.
And I want to know how you didn't end up being a football player and how that came to fruition and everything. But so when we come back from commercial, we're going to talk with Red One a little bit more about his journey, about everything in between hip hop and the state of hip hop, and you know what he's doing right now. So we'll be back shortly. This is the Players Corner with Karim Grant.
This program is brought to you by Ignite TV. Now you're in command. Visit Rogers.com for more details.
What do you think I'm going to be all intrigued by what's behind the door?
You've given me the world.
Grab a coat, you're coming with me.
Yes, ma'am. You deserve it all. You deserve it all.
Merry Christmas, everybody.
You deserve it all.
You're watching Rogers TV.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. We are back in studio with none other than Red Run. He is one half of one of the greatest hip-hop groups in Canadian history, probably the most decorated group. And he is here in studio just talking and chopping it up about his journey, everything that he's seen in this game. And, you know, I'm a football player, and I've come to find out that Red One is a former football player as well. He actually played with one of my former guests on the show and former teammates, David Sanchez. How was that experience in football, and what happened?
Man, you know, I'm from Vancouver, and Jerome Paython, David Sanchez.
Shout out Jerome Paython, Acadia University. You know what it is. All right.
We're all from the same area, Van, and it was just like I was playing football. I used to play for a team called the West Side Warriors. The Renfrew Trojans. Then I went and I played at the West Side Warriors, and then one year I went and tried out with the Surrey Rams with David Sanchez. Yeah. But that year, I had to actually go on tour for music.
He was already big time. He had to go on tour.
And tour went so well, and I was so shocked by how far across Canada our music was spreading and how people were reacting to our stuff that I was like, yo, I'm going even harder on this music thing. But, you know, my dream was to go to be a Washington Husky.
Yeah.
Sanchez went to the Oregon Ducks, so we would have been rivals.
That's right.
But my dream was to go play for either Washington Huskies or USC, and obviously, hopefully transition to a career in football. I was a running back, and
That's what's up. I can see you still fast. You look like you're in good shape, man. You say, you're in good shape, man. You could have done that. But it's funny how life takes us into different ways. I always say, my kids always play multiple sports, and I always tell them, don't choose a sport. Let the sport choose you.
Yes.
Let that sport choose you, because God has a different plan for you than what you think you have for yourself, right?
Exactly.
So we fast forward a bit now. Let's say the mid '90s, and you're an award-winning rapper entertainer, and you just won your first Juno.
Right.
But you didn't accept the award. Why not?
Like I said, we were some underground MCs, and we kind of just were so sheltered from what was going on in the music industry in Toronto and all that other stuff and we were so fundamental as far as hip hop goes. Like, we didn't really care about that kind of stuff. And when we came into Toronto and we seen what was going on and how, they had the Junos were 2 days that at that time. They'd have on a Saturday the Juno Gala, and on Sunday, the actual Junos. And, they'd give out the awards for all the black music at the gala dinner on the Saturday. And then on the Sunday, they'd be giving out all the awards for the best children's instrumentalists. And
that's crazy.
All these other weird genres of music. Like, music is music. We sample from every kind of music, so I don't put one above the other. But at that time, hip hop had taken over the world from rock music and was up with pop music and was taking over the pop music scene. So we kind of felt like, yo, this is kind of disrespectful that, no reggae artists, no R&B artists, no hip hop artists, all black music forms were kind of just being given the token, here at the dinner, and then at the day of the actual Juno and they're televising, they're handing out all these weird awards of people that aren't even selling half as many records or
crazy
genres that aren't even a quarter as big. So we felt that was a kind of disrespect, and there was never no hip hop or no urban music at all being represented at the live show, on stage, nothing. So we're like, man, this is really not.
Keep that award for yourself.
Yeah, we're like, when you guys are ready to actually really, not even pay homage, but show respect, and at that point, so we were just young and had no idea what the outcome would be.
You had a bit of militancy to you.
Militancy still. We thought, they're probably gonna blacklist us or blackball us, whatever they call it. We were like, we don't even care.
Power to the people.
We're on some underground.
I feel you.
But the next day, all the newspapers and all kind of people were talking about it, and it was crazy because the very next year they asked us to perform on the live show, and they gave out awards to hip hop music on the live show. But the dopest part about that was, it wasn't a thing where it was like, oh, these rascal guys, they didn't take their awards and they were being bratty about it or whatever. And now in the next year they want to take their award because they're giving it to them. The next year we were nominated again for a song called Northern Touch, but it wasn't just the Rascals. They had Rascals, Cardinal, Thrust, Checkmate, Chocolate. So it seemed like it was the Canadian hip hop fraternity.
That's right.
Coming on stage and representing. So it was like, at that point, it wasn't even about Rascals didn't accept their award. It was like hip hop didn't accept their award, and now hip hop is coming on as a force and representing. So that's kind of one of the things I'm really most proud of, because years later when I'm watching the Junos and I'm seeing Drake host, Russell Peters host, all these hip hop
that wasn't happening
artists,
before.
It wasn't happening before.
Until you guys put your foot down and took a stand. And that's incredible, because I think that's what hip hop is. Hip hop is a reflection of society. And if society's in an activist mode, that's what hip hop is. That's what you're gonna feel at that point in time. So I think that's incredible, because now you're at a level now where you can control the narrative.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? And so you can say, once you put your foot down, it doesn't always work for everybody. But I'm glad you guys did it, because now it helped.
But you gotta remember, we're coming out of an era where Public Enemy, KRS-One.
That's right.
It was like Queen Latifah, all these artists are talking about, black power and activism, taking stands, you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So that's just what we was just students of that.
So the whole Northern Touch vibe, how did that even come to fruition? Like, you guys were obviously, hip hop royalty at that time. Who hand selected those individuals to be a part of that incredible song?
Well, my man Jay Swing and DJ Kimo, they do a mixtape series, and they were doing a new mixtape, and Jay was like, yo, we need you guys to do something special for this mixtape. So we did the song, and me and Checkmate and Fit, we jumped on the song. And then Saul, like I said, he was working at BMG at the time. He heard the song, was like, yo, this is dope. We gotta add some more people to this. So we always just come to Toronto and hang out with Cardinal, and back then they were called The Circle. It was Cardi, Socrates, Chocolate, Julie, Rodala, Silver, and we'd always hang out with that crew. So we're like, okay, I'm gonna grab some Cardi from and Chocolate from The Circle. We gonna throw Thrust on here, represent another crew, and we're just gonna do this posse track with all Canadian MCs and throw it on. And so Saul kind of made the East Coast version of everything happen. We did the West Coast with us and Chex, and we put it out there. It wasn't on our album, because our album came out by the time we did it, but the song was going so hard, going #1 at radio and all. The BMG actually repressed our album, threw that song on there, and then put it back out. So there's a bunch of people that bought a bunch of albums that didn't get that on there, that had to go rebuy the album.
It's so dope to have all of those egos in one studio or one place at one time or one video, just to come together and be like, you know what, let's put it all aside and let's just make great music. Can you imagine having Drake, Tory Lanez, The Weeknd, all on one track right now? That'd be crazy, right?
That'd be crazy, bro.
That'd be crazy. I don't know if that could happen, but I'm putting it out in the universe. Let's make it happen, Drizzy. You know you can do it. But listen, the Northern Touch obviously touched a lot of people's hearts, and I'm sure it hurt some people in the wrong way too, because you didn't have Maestro on there. You didn't have some other guys like Dream Warriors who kind of set the table for you guys coming up. Do you think, or Missy Me, do you feel like they might have felt slighted in any way?
Well, if they did, I definitely would like to apologize, but it was one of those things, because I really looked up to all of everybody you just mentioned. I bow to them, pay homage, and I really looked up to them. But it was just one of those things where it was just like, the song was 3 minutes. We had already jumped on. Checkmate already. As a group, we had to cut our verse from 16 bars. If you check the song, I only do 8 bars. Fit does 8 bars. You know what I mean? So I couldn't even do a full 16. It was coming together so fast that we didn't really have time to sit down and go through and be like, I would have loved to seen Socrates on there. I would have loved to seen a ton of other Canadian artists on there, you know what I'm saying? Mathematics.
Even me, when I'm watching the Grammys a couple nights ago and I'm seeing the entire posse, because they had even bringing that to fruition must have been tough.
Of course.
And then I'm like, oh, Lil Baby's on the stage with Queen Latifah? Doesn't
know
even
what
make
I'm
sense. But it's like, at the time, it's like, who can you get? And it's like, you have to make things move as fast as possible.
It was literally one night in the
Yeah.
studio, and it was who was available to come. It wasn't even like, it was like, yo, we're going to the studio to do this. And that's how it was like, Shockler and Cardi from the circle ended up on it,
Yeah.
because it was just like, those were who we had contacts, who we hung out with, and
That's right.
if
So
you
it
just
makes sense.
whatever
It
was
makes
easier,
sense.
we just did it like that.
It's cool.
Ghetto Concept should have been on there.
I'm just poking the bear. I feel like there's more to it, but that's okay.
No,
You know?
no, for
But
sure. But
you've won multiple awards. You are a decorated rapper. You've got Much Music Awards. You've got Juno Awards, SoCan Awards, and then you guys break up as a group. All right, but you come together for certain events, and I saw you last summer. You came together for an event that Drake put on, the OVO Fest.
Right.
How did that come to be?
well, we still a group. Those are my brothers, and,
Yeah.
and we always gonna be family and a group till we die.
Okay.
But you know, I think it was the second or third OVO Fest. They had reached out to try to make that happen,
Yeah.
and it never came together. And how many years later? I don't know. 10 years later, it was they reached out and was like, "Yo, we need you guys to come jump on this this show on
Yeah.
a Thursday night, the opening of the OVO Fest. We're trying to get everybody from Nelly Furtado
That's dope.
to
That's dope.
you know."
When I saw you guys that you guys were on the stage, I couldn't make it up. I had an event that night, but I had boys coming in from Vancouver that are just coming just for that event. That's an incredible feat, because Drake's obviously the biggest artist in the world right now, and to have him pay homage is something that really means a lot, and I'm sure it meant a lot to you.
100%.
But we only got a couple minutes left, and I want to just backtrack to when you were younger.
Mm-hmm.
If you could tell your younger self one or two things just to kind of galvanize yourself and prepare yourself, what would it be?
I would definitely tell myself, believe in yourself and believe the process. And, ignorance is bliss sometimes, because then you just get to follow your heart and follow what feels right. And
Yeah.
when you're following what feels right, it usually leads to good places.
That's dope, man.
But I do have to say, shout out to Drizzy, and you're right, he's a super humble guy, and multiple times he's had shows and called me up on stage and shown love and been like, yo, these guys, we used to listen to these guys and they helped shape the artist I am.
Yeah.
And for someone in his position to do what he did and do what he does, we really appreciate and love Drake for
Yeah,
that. So,
shouts to you, Drake. I'm a big fan. You need to be on the show. We'll get you here next week. What do you say? Come on, make it happen. Anyway, Red, it's been a pleasure.
Oh, no, the
you got
pleasure's all
such a
mine,
kindred
brother.
soul. You don't understand, man. He just comes, he's just chill. He's laid back. He just, got the shades on and everything. Everything's just low key. I love it. And you're very humble soul, and I love that about you, man. Keep doing what you're doing. We got to have you back on the show so we can talk a bit longer,
whenever
man.
you're ready, man. There's
This is
so much
Red-
more we didn't really get to get into.
This is Red One from the Rascals. This is the Players Corner. It's not just sports, fellas and ladies. This is everything. So we talk about the entire culture here. We'll see you next time. This is the Players Corner with Karim Grant.
Love it.
My brother.
Respect.
Yeah, man.
Connect with us by visiting